The lie detector flashed red once again as the human smirked, but the Babagan interrogator stared back confused. In their strictly honest culture, the very concept of lying was entirely foreign to them. The interrogation chamber on the Babagan battlecruiser Shiana was a cold and sparse room. The table in the center had two chairs, one seating the broad-shouldered human, the other the slighter Babagan interrogator. Its spindly, multi-jointed fingers steepled as its large black eyes studied the human curiously. "I will ask again," the Babagan said calmly. "What species are you affiliated with?" The human leaned back, casually in the seat, his face impassive. "Like I said before, I'm just a humble trader. My vessel belongs to me and me alone. I don't work for any government or species." The lie detector blinked red again. The Babagan had picked up the unmanned scout vessel on the outskirts of their territory, its warp signature strange and unknown to them. When they tractored the small vessel into a hangar and boarded, they found this lone human inside. Chapter 2, Analyzing the Enigma. He had been completely calm and cooperative, claiming to be a freelance trader, but something about his manner rang false to the Babagans. Now, under interrogation, the lie detector was confirming that dishonesty. The interrogator studied the readouts carefully. According to this, the human was lying about everything: his identity, his origin, his purpose here. It seemed impossible. In all their history, the Babagan had never encountered a sentient being capable of lying. It was an ability utterly alien to them. The human held the interrogator's large black eyes steadily. "I don't know why your machine says I'm lying. Either it's faulty, or there's some misunderstanding between our species." The lie detector flashed red once more. The interrogator's confusion only deepened. If this being was telling the truth, then an alarming possibility arose: the humans could somehow circumvent the lie detector. But if he was lying, then the humans had abilities beyond Babagan imagining. Either way, this encounter was even more concerning than it first appeared. The interrogator rose slowly. "I will confer with the analysts. We will get to the truth of this." It exited the chamber, leaving the human alone. The interrogator practically ran down the dark metal corridors of the Shiana to the central operations room, where security analysts and senior officers were watching behind the energy-shielded glass of the observation deck. It quickly stepped up to the current watch commander and began babbling in agitation. The human, the lie detector, he circumvents it somehow. "I do not understand how it is possible." The watch commander held up one long, spindly hand. "Calm yourself, interrogator. Explain what transpired." The interrogator steadied its breathing before recounting the interrogation, how the human had been perfectly calm, claiming to be only a humble freelance trader, how after every statement, the lie detector had flashed red. "But Commander, lying as a concept is completely foreign to us. No Babagan could intentionally speak an untruth. How can this human circumvent our most advanced technology?" The watch commander turned to the chief analyst, fixating one large black eye on it, while the other remained focused on the interrogator. Like all Babagan, the commander had two independently moving eyes, but able to observe multiple things at once. "Is what the interrogator says even possible?" it asked the chief analyst. The chief analyst bobbed its eye stalks uncertainly. "I do not know, Commander. The lie detector is based on biometric readings and brainwave patterns. It is attuned to Babagan physiology. Perhaps with this alien, the baseline readings are inaccurate." The commander shifted both eyes back to the interrogator. "You say the human appears calm, even compliant?" "Yes, Commander. He has readily answered all questions, seemingly cooperative." The black orbs narrowed. "Cooperative? Go back. Press him. There is more to this human than we know." The interrogator straightened. "Yes, sir." Right away it turned and strode quickly from the room, determined to get answers. Back in the interrogation chamber, the human sat motionless in his chair, only the slight rise and fall of his chest hinting that he was even alive. Around him, the thorium agents he had sprayed earlier now filled the chamber in an invisible haze, slowly being pumped through the ventilation system into the rest of the ship. The interrogator strode back into the chamber, both eyes swiveling to fix on the human from different angles. It sat down opposite him once more. "My superiors do not believe you have been entirely honest with us," it began. "I want you to explain how you are deceiving the lie detector." The human regarded it passively. "I've already told you. I haven't deceived anything. Perhaps it simply doesn't work properly on my species." The interrogator's voice took on a sharper tone. "I think you know more than you claim. What government sent you? What is your mission here?" It leaned forward intently, waiting for the lie detector to expose the human's dishonesty. But instead, the human just shrugged, unconcerned. Like I said, I'm just a freelance trader. Nobody sent me. I don't have any mission other than finding goods to sell. The interrogator glanced back in disbelief as the lie detector remained dark. How was this possible? There must be some trick to it. It opened its mouth to demand more answers when suddenly alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red emergency lights flashed on. Something catastrophic had just happened on the Shiana. The blaring alarms jolted the interrogator to its feet. Something had gone horribly wrong. It rushed to the door, pausing only to bark an order at the 2 guards stationed outside. Keep close watch on the human. As the interrogator hurried out, the guards moved into the interrogation room, pulse rifles held at the ready as they took up positions on either side of the doorway. The human didn't stir, remaining casually relaxed in his seat, even as chaos erupted around him. The interrogator sprinted through the corridors, nearly colliding with several other crew members also responding to the emergency. It followed the signs directing towards the engine room, where the alarms were sounding loudest. The hallways were bathed in the eerie pulsing red of the warning lights. Skidding to a halt outside the engine room doors, the interrogator stared in dismay at the scene beyond. Wisps of acrid smoke drifted from the charred engine cores. Several engineering crew lay collapsed on the ground. The ship's main power systems were destroyed. Other Babagan officers were already at work. Status report, barked the interrogator. The ranking engineer turned, confusion and fear evident in his large black eyes. We don't know what happened. The main reactors just started overloading without warning. There was no way to stop it. What does this mean for the ship? The engineer wavered. With the main cores down, we've lost primary systems. Life support is failing, and backup reserves will only last a few intervals. Dread settled into the interrogator's stomach. The lives of over 500 crew were now at stake. The lie detector flashed red once again as the human smirked, but the Babagan interrogator stared back confused. In their strictly honest culture, the very concept of lying was entirely foreign to them. The interrogation chamber on the Babagan battlecruiser Shiana was a cold and sparse room. The table in the center had 2 chairs, one seating the broad-shouldered human, the other the slighter Babagan interrogator. Its spindly, multi-jointed fingers steepled as its large black eyes studied the human curiously. I will ask again, the Babagan said calmly. What species are you affiliated with? The human leaned back, casually in the seat, his face impassive. Like I said before, I'm just a humble trader. My vessel belongs to me and me alone. I don't work for any government or species. The lie detector blinked red again. The Babagan had picked up the unmanned scout vessel on the outskirts of their territory, its warp signature strange and unknown to them. When they tractored the small vessel into a hangar and boarded, they found this lone human inside. Chapter 2, Analyzing the Enigma. Over a dozen Babagan security personnel lay strewn about, uniform pulse scorch marks indicating how they died. In the smoky air, emergency sirens continued to wail an ominous dirge. Crouching by the nearest body, the interrogator examined the fatal injury. These wounds are precise. He's targeting only vitals. The human is a professional soldier at Rose and took stock of the surroundings. They were near the fighter launch bay now. Was the human attempting to steal a craft to escape? That presented an opportunity to corner him. Seal all exits from this hangar, it ordered. He won't get past us, leaving guards to watch the main lifts. The interrogator entered the sprawling hangar chamber cautiously. Rows of sleek, single-pilot fighters stood ready for launch. No human was immediately evident. Moving silently between the parked craft, rifles raised, the team stalked through the bay. A sudden proximity alarm sounded from the nearest fighter as its cockpit canopy began to lower. The human had been hiding inside. Before the team could react, the craft's engines flared to life. Acting on instinct, the interrogator dove aside behind a heavy loading crane as the fighter screamed out of its launch position, narrowly missing them. The interrogator rolled to its feet, swiftly changing the ammo cell on its rifle for one that would penetrate the fighter's shields. But it was too late. The human had blasted his way clear of the hangar into open space. Within moments, the fighter blinked out of sight, escaping to faster-than-light speeds. Lowering the rifle in defeat, the interrogator could only watch helplessly as their quarry slipped away. It had failed in its duty to stop him, and now there was no telling what havoc this human agent would wreak elsewhere. The human infiltrator blasted his stolen fighter into the blackness of space, engines flaring as he accelerated away from the crippled Babagan battlecruiser. On the Shiena's bridge, the mood was grim. With main power still offline and life support draining, the situation was dire for the remaining crew. But not all hope was lost. The interrogator slumped into the commander's chair, weary after leading the failed pursuit of the human through the smoky corridors. Yet even as defeat weighed heavy, the spark of an idea took hold. The shuttle bay, it muttered, pulling up emergency schematics. A handful of orbital shuttles, equipped for short voyages, still waited in their berths. While small, they had their own life support reserves. If crews could board them, escape the dying battlecruiser, and set out distress signals, there was a chance for rescue. Working quickly, the interrogator assigned teams to sprint through the failing ship and usher crew members toward the shuttle bay. It was a desperate gambit, but right now it was the only way to save lives. The red lights still flashed their ominous pulse as the evacuation began. A few decks away, the human infiltrator also studied schematics as his stolen fighter drifted a safe distance from the Shiena. He had bought himself time to retreat and vanish, but his mission was not yet complete. There was one last act left to fully disable the Babagan ship. Bringing the fighter about, he locked onto one final target, the Shiena's decaying orbit. If he could alter it at the right moment, the ship would begin drifting into the atmosphere of a nearby gas giant. The friction and heat would utterly destroy what was left. His only regret was that lives would still be lost, but the risk had been necessary. The intelligence he carried back could help turn the tide against Babagan aggression. Sometimes the hardest sacrifices brought the greatest victories. The fighter's engines flared again, beginning the burn that would seal the fate of the Shiena. On board the stricken battlecruiser, the interrogator watched from the bridge as escape shuttles started breaking away into space. There was no time left. The Babagan could only watch, evacuating who they could, as their ship began its final descent toward oblivion in the clouds below. They had failed to stop the human, but they had not failed each other.